So I didn't want to make this video. I didn't feel like it adds much value for doing your 2023 tax return, but apparently it's getting a lot of views on YouTube. As you can see, this one from Parallel Wealth, 120,000 views in 3 days. Canadian and T-shirt, 76,000 views in 1 day. And since my day job is a tax analyst, it doesn't feel right not making a video about it. So let's get started. So here's what I'll talk about in the video. So the TFSA, the RSP, CPP, the FHSA, and some brackets. And actually, I want to mention an interesting note that people tend to forget related with the brackets and the RSP. And yes, I was inspired by Canadian and T-shirt and Parallel Wealth for the topics in this video. But I'll add my own touch and hopefully it's valuable to you. So first things first, TFSA limit for 2024 has increased to $7,000. So come January 1st, 2024, if you have the $7,000, you can add it to your TFSA, and therefore any gains you make on that $7,000 will be tax-free. Now, personally, I'm going to put this $7,000 in a savings account, a high interest savings account. For example, Tangerine right now is paying 5.5% until March 31st. I've got a promotion from Tangerine. So that's where I'd be putting the $7,000 in 2024, because obviously the TFSA is just a box. It's a registered account, but in that box I can invest in anything. I could put it in a savings account. It could be cash in a savings account. It could be mutual funds at a bank. It could be stocks with a brokerage like Questrade, referral link below. Interactive brokers as well, referral link below. Or even Wealthsimple Invest, referral link below as well. So all these brokerages, you could use them to open a TFSA and invest in stocks or buy stocks within that TFSA. Personally, I'm just keeping it simple this year. I'm just adding the $7,000 in a high interest savings account with the 5.5% interest rate. You can even open a TFSA with private REITs like Equiton. Now, I noticed not a lot of people take advantage of their TFSA. It started in 2009, but obviously you need to have been a resident of Canada in 2009 and over 18 to start investing in 2009. The limit from 2009 to 2012, the contribution limit was $5,000 per year. And then 2013, 2014 was $5,500. And then 2015 was $10,000. And they brought it back down from 2016 to 2018, back down to $5,500. And then 2019 to 2022, $6,000. 2023 up to $6,500. And then this year, finally, $7,000. So if you've never contributed to your TFSA and you were over 18 and Canadian resident by 2009, you'd have a big amount that you can contribute if you have the money. So you'd be eligible to contribute $95,000 if you've never used your TFSA. And that $95,000 can be invested in either, as I mentioned before, a savings account, mutual funds, stocks, and any gains you make on that $95,000 will be tax-free. You can withdraw the gains tax-free. You can withdraw the whole amount tax-free, but you cannot redeposit or recontribute the same year. Whatever you withdraw, you can't redeposit the same year. You'll have to wait the following year in order to recontribute. And it doesn't affect your next year's contribution limit. So for example, if you do have the $95,000 and you open a savings account with Tangerine and you're able to get 6%, I think new customers can get 6%. That's $5,700 per year tax-free divided by 12. That's $475 a month that you can get completely tax-free just by contributing $95,000 in your TFSA in a savings account, for example. Now, one way of knowing your TFSA limit as a Canadian resident, if you log into your CRA account, obviously if you've already filed your taxes, if you log into your CRA account online, there's a section at the bottom where you could see your RSP limit and also your TFSA contribution limit. Now, of course, might not be up to date because maybe the financial institution didn't send all your information to the CRA, but normally that's where you can get your TFSA limit if you don't want to calculate it yourself. So who is eligible to open a TFSA? Any individual that is a resident of Canada who has a valid SIN and is over 18. So you could be a resident of Canada even if you're a temporary resident. So even if your SIN starts with 9, you'd be able to open a TFSA as long as you're over 18 and Canadian resident. All right, so that's for the TFSA changes for 2024. Let's move on to the RSP. So as I mentioned before, you can find your RSP limit on your CRA account, more specifically, even on your notice of assessment from previous years. So we're getting ready to prepare or file 2023 tax return. So if you look at 2022 notice of assessment, you'll see your contribution limit for the RSP for 2023, and the RSP deadline for this year or for the 2023 tax return will be February 29th, 2024. So you have until February 29th, 2024 to make contributions to your RSP if you want to lower your tax bill for your 2023 tax return. And once again, an RSP is just a box. It's a registered account. You could open it with any financial institution, any banks. You could open it with Questrade, Interactive Brokers, or Wealthsimple. And you can use it to just leave cash in the account, put it in a high interest savings account. You could buy mutual funds. You could buy stocks with one of these three brokerages. You can even open an RSP with Equiton, a private REIT. Now, just like the TFSA, there is a contribution limit. You can't just contribute as much as you want. So the maximum contribution is always 18% of your previous year's income, up to a maximum of $30,000 for 2023. So let's say your previous year's earned income was $200,000. And then you do 18% of that, that's 36,000. But there's a cap. So your contribution limit would not be 36,000. Contribution limit for 2023 would be capped at 30,780. And obviously, if you don't use it, it's cumulative. So it adds up. And if you don't use it for several years, you can end up with 100,000 of contribution room that you can make to your RSP and definitely lower your income and hence lower your tax bill. Now, it's always been 18% of your earned income or previous year's earned income, but the max cap changes every year. It goes up with inflation. So please respect this limit when you do contribute for 2023. And don't forget, if you have an RSP matching program with your employer, the deductions taken out of your paycheck and go into your RSP or your group RSP, either with an insurance company like Manulife or Sun Life, these also count are included in your contribution. And obviously your employer's matching counts as a contribution as well. So don't forget to take that into consideration if you plan on making an RSP contribution outside of your employer. So next I'll talk about the CPP, but honestly this one I really don't care about, but let's go for it. So obviously we have to pay 5.95% of our pay in CPP contributions. It helps finance our retirement when the government pays us back CPP benefits. Now there is a max that we pay per year. So in 2024 it has increased. Of course, the max is going to be $38.67 that we can possibly pay out of our paycheck. So it's 5.95% of our income, but the first $3,500 is exempt, and the maximum annual pensionable earnings is $68,500. So for example, if you make $50,000, if your income for 2024 is $50,000, the first $3,500 is exempt. So we're going to remove $3,500. You're left with $46,500. Then you're going to pay 0.0595 of that amount. So that's how much you're going to end up paying total in 2024 in CPP deductions. So if you make $100,000, if your income for 2024 was $100,000, now the maximum annual pensionable earnings is $68,500. So we're going to start off with $68,500, and remember the first $3,500 is exempt. So we're left with 65,000, which is the amount you see here. Then we're going to multiply that by 0.0595, and the maximum for 2024 that you'll pay out of your paycheck in CPP deductions will be $3,867.50, which is what you see over here. Now, in addition to that, in 2024, starting January 1st, 2024, there's an extra CPP deduction coming out of your paycheck if you're making over $68,500. Look at this. It has its own category. Your second additional CPP contribution, CPP rates, and maximum new 2024. So let's look at 2024 line. As you can see, additional maximum annual pensionable earnings, $73,200. So anything above $68,500, which is what we saw in the previous table, anything above $68,500 but below $73,200, we'll have to pay an additional 4% of CPP contribution on your T4 for 2024. So which you'll probably get in February 2025. You're going to see an extra box. I think it's going to be 16A, box 16A, which will show this value, but that's the maximum that you'll pay on the additional income. So just to see if this makes sense, 73,200 minus 68,500, we've got 4,700 times the 4% here, we've got $188. So that's the max. Someone who's making $100,000 in 2024 will end up paying $3,867.50 on the first part, and then an additional $188 on the second part. And that comes out of your paycheck, CPP deductions, and your employer pays the same thing as well. So that's for CPP, nothing more to add about it. All right, next, let's talk about the FHSA, First Home Savings Account. This is brand new. So the First Home Savings Account is similar to the Home Buyers Plan under the RRSP. It encourages Canadian residents to buy their first property. So it encourages them to save for the first property and use that money as a down payment, tax-free, for their first property. So it allows them to open an account similar to a TFSA and RSP. It's a registered account. It's a box. You can contribute to it. What's different with this one is the contribution that you make to the FHSA is going to be a tax deduction, just like the RSP. It's going to reduce your income. And then when you withdraw it towards your first property purchase, you can withdraw it tax-free and you don't have to pay it back. The home buyer's plan under the RSP program, you have to pay it back. But the FHSA, when you withdraw it as a down payment towards your first property, you don't have to pay it back. So it's better than the RSP plan, the home buyer's plan under the RSP, and it's better than the TFSA because the contribution that you make to the FHSA is tax-free, is a tax deduction, while the contribution you make in a TFSA is not a tax deduction. The only thing is the gains inside a TFSA, the profits you make inside a TFSA is tax-free, and you could withdraw it anytime without it, for any reason, tax-free. That's a TFSA. FHSA, in order to withdraw it tax-free, it has to be towards a purchase of your first property. So not everyone's eligible. If you already have a property, if you already bought something, you cannot open an FHSA or even use it unless it's been 4 years that you were not an owner. So you can definitely open an account in 2023, and you should probably open an account if you're eligible in order to take advantage of the contribution room, which is $8,000 per year, maximum $40,000 lifetime. So who can open an FHSA? At least 18 years of age, not more than 71. You must be a resident in Canada and a first-time home buyer. What's a first-time home buyer? Here's the definition of a first-time home buyer. For purposes of opening an FHSA, you will be considered a first-time home buyer if you did not, at any time in the current calendar year before the account is opened, or at any time in the preceding 4 calendar years, live in a qualifying home, or what would be a qualifying home if located in Canada, as your principal place of residence that either you owned or jointly owned. So what's a qualifying home? So your FHSA participation room in the year that you open your first FHSA is $8,000. So the year that you open it, that's when it starts. $8,000 per year, maximum lifetime $40,000. So the max you can contribute lifetime is 40. So that means the max, well, actually the max that you withdraw might be more depending on the investment. So once again, it's a box that you can open with any financial institution or most financial institutions like banks. You could contribute the $8,000, put it in a savings account. You could open one with Questrade, remember, refer link below, and you could buy an ETF, you could buy stocks with it through Questrade. Try not to lose your money, or try not to lose your down payment on your first property. Now, Interactive Brokers, I don't think they have an FHSA yet, and I don't think Wealthsimple has one either. Actually, Wealthsimple does have an FHSA, but yeah, sadly, I don't think Interactive Brokers has an FHSA. And I definitely don't think Equiton or private REITs has FHSA either, because it's still brand new. Now, remember, if you do open an FHSA in 2023 and do contribute to one, you will be getting a T4 FHSA slip in around February 2024, which will have your contribution amount on it, and you'll use this to fill out your 2023 tax return. So don't forget about this tax slip. And if you live in Quebec, you'll get a corresponding RL32. So if you open an account with Questrade, for example, an FHSA with Questrade, around February 2024, Questrade should make available this tax slip for you, which you can go download from the Questrade portal. So that's it for the FHSA. Pretty useful tool, to be honest. I wish I could take advantage of it, but I can't. All right, next, let's talk about the brackets. I won't say much about it, but I do want to mention something interesting about it related to the RSP. So for 2023, which is the year that we're going to finish soon, when you're going to file your 2023 tax return, the brackets have changed. Now, and as you can see, it goes up every year with inflation. So the advantage of that is that means instead of the first $50,000 being taxed at 15%, now your first $53,000 of taxable income is taxed at 15%. So you're saving a little bit of taxes because an extra amount of your income is getting taxed at 15% instead of getting taxed at 20%. and so on. Obviously, every province has its own tax brackets as well. And what's interesting about Quebec, they've actually lowered their tax rate. So Quebec is at 14% this year instead of 15% for the first bracket. But the first bracket starts at 49,000. But last year you could see it was the first bracket was 46,000 at 15%. Now this year for Quebec, it's the first 49,000 that's taxed at 14%. We get a 1% savings only for the first two brackets. So 15 and 20% went to 14 and 19. But the higher brackets remained the same, 24% and 25.75%. Now although that does sound good, but they've also compensated a bit by some of the refundable credits that they offer us, where they used to give us 15%, for example, they've lowered it as well to 14%. So they've made up for it on the credit side as well. But what I really wanted to mention about these brackets, these numbers here, these limits that go up every year, is a common argument I get with the RSP is, yes, when you contribute to your RSP, it is a tax deduction. You get an immediate credit, tax credit, which you can use to invest or do whatever, but it's money that you get right now. But eventually, in the future, when you withdraw from your RSP, you're going to end up paying taxes on that amount. So it's the same thing. What's the point? So the advantage I see to the RSP is, let's say you save $4,000 by investing in your RSP. Well, first of all, just time value of money, $4,000 right now is going to be worth more than $4,000 25 years later, even if you pay the same amount of taxes, because you withdraw. Let's say you contribute 20,000 and it saves you 4,000, and then in the future you withdraw 20,000, so that's an extra $20,000 income. You end up paying the exact same amount of taxes, 4,000. 4,000 right now is still better than $4,000. It's still worth more than $4,000 in 25 years. But what I'm saying is there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to be paying the same amount of taxes in 25 years. Why? Because the brackets keep going up every year with inflation. So as long as your expenses don't go up as fast as inflation, hopefully your mortgage will be paid down in 25 years. Your car will be paid down. You'll have less expenses, or you'll be more efficient with your spending. But these tax brackets keep going up. And let's say they go up 2% every year. Right now, they're probably going up higher, but just to be conservative, let's say they go up 2% every year for 25 years, right? So 25, so they're going to go up 64% in 25 years. Right now, they're at 53,000. So in 25 years, the first bracket will be at around $86,000, if not $90,000. So in 25 years, the first bracket, it will be at $90,000. So for sure, you're going to be paying less taxes on your RSP withdrawal in the future. Because let's say you're making $100,000, you contributed $20,000, so you saved the taxes on the bracket of $100,000, which is around here. So you save the taxes on 20%. But in the future, when you withdraw $20,000, you have up until almost $90,000 to be in the first bracket of 15%. So right away, you will save at least 5% in taxes, plus time value of money. So not only these tax brackets go up, but your personal exemption amounts go up. So basic personal amounts, sorry, not personal exemptions. But what that is, that's the amount on which no one will pay taxes on. So the first, right now for 2023, the first $15,000 of income or taxable income is tax-free for everyone. Please watch these two videos here on how to read your tax return to understand how the basic personal amount works. But the basic personal amount also goes up with inflation. So remember, we said if it goes up 2% per year for 25 years, so that gives us 1.64, right? So 1.64 times 15,000. So in 25 years, the basic personal amount will be 25,000 about. So that means in 25 years, the first $25,000 of income will be completely tax-free. So in 25 years, if you're retired and you don't have any income from your job and you want to start withdrawing RSP, you could probably withdraw the first $30,000 from your RSP every year and it'll be completely tax-free. So you saved, when you contributed initially to your RSP, the first time you saved taxes on the bracket that you were in. You got a credit up front that you did something with it, you invested or whatever, but you had money up front. And in the future, you're going to get your contribution back, probably tax-free. So that's the interesting note I wanted to make with the brackets and the RSP. All right, so I hope this video was valuable to you. Don't forget to check out my referral links below if you want to open an account with either Questrade, Interactive Brokers, or Wealthsimple. And I think I do have a key code for Tangerine as well. If you're a new client for Tangerine, I do have a key code that offers you something, I think $50. All right. Thanks for watching.